Just ahead on American Black Journal, we are devoting today's entire program to addressing the needs of young black males. We'll talk about how Detroit measures up when it comes to creating educational and economic opportunities for African American men, and we'll look at a program that's helping black men graduate from college. We have a very important conversation ahead, so stay right there. American Black Journal starts right now.
At Dte Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. Dte Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. A new report shows Detroit is among the cities doing the most to create educational and economic opportunities for young black men. The information comes from the National Campaign for Black Male Achievement, a nonprofit organization made up of leaders from across the country. According to the report, Detroit, Washington, D.C., and Oakland, California are leading the efforts to reduce the achievement gap for African American males. The data is based on successful strategies and programs that are helping young men graduate from high school, get jobs, and avoid trouble. The Skillman Foundation is one of the organization's funding partners, and I'm pleased to have Skillman Program Officer David McGee here today. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you for having me again.
So, I mean, this is sort of good news about bad news, I suppose. We're doing better at dealing with one of the biggest problems that we have in this country. So we should be happy about that. We should be looking at it and figuring out how to grow it larger. But we still are talking about an enormous deficit that plagues African American men and the country.
Yeah, I mean, when you really look at it nationally, economically, socially, academically,
yeah,
African American males are at the bottom of so many lists.
Yeah.
So for the very first time, and what's exciting about this work, for the very first time, there's a national effort to support the builder. And what I mean by that is that programs and policy are progress, but those are made up of people. So the Campaign for Black Male Achievement not only focuses on the people, the programs on the ground, but it builds the individuals who are actually doing the work.
Right, right. So let's talk about what that effort looks like here and in other cities.
Yeah, so we have 200 plus individuals who are committed to improving life outcomes for black men and boys connected to the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. We have hundreds of organizations who are part of a cadre of individuals that provide support for one another. Our president and CEO, Tanya Allen, she's actually the board chair of the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. So it's a really exciting time, but the individuals here on the ground doing the work, they recognize how important it is to be committed to this issue. I mean, you can be concerned about something,
right,
but commitment takes an additional step. And that's
effort.
what these, it takes that effort, and that's what we're excited about, not only in the city, but as a foundation, we're excited to support that work.
And so what are the things that the people who are engaged in this, what are they doing? Are they mentoring? Are they working in schools? Give us an idea of what this looks like.
So they're definitely mentoring. They're definitely working in schools. They're providing the capacity that's needed individually and institutionally, so that those organizations can thrive. They're exposing these boys of color to a cadre of things locally and throughout the country, and empowering themselves, empowering young people to move the needle themselves academically, socially, mentally, financially, providing that financial literacy. So there's a host of efforts on the ground being led by hundreds of individuals who said, you know what, I'm going to make this commitment to this population.
Yeah. When we talk about this issue and talk about Detroit being out front of dealing with this, talk about some of the numbers that tell us that that's true. What is it that we're seeing here in Detroit that may be getting better than other places?
Yeah, well, one, we have a mayor who's been out front and outspoken about this particular topic. We have Councilmember James Tate, who started a task force on black male engagement. So from the top level, those are a few things. As you trickle down, what makes Detroit unique is that this population is primarily African American.
Yes.
And then we have a high concentration of African American males of color, right? So that means that it is incumbent upon us to take a different approach to doing this work and solving these issues. So most of the national efforts throughout the country that are focused on this population have local chapters right here in the city of Detroit.
In Detroit. Okay, and are we seeing the achievement gap, for instance, in school narrow in Detroit?
For boys of color, we are seeing a slow uptick.
Is that right?
We're seeing a slow uptick.
Despite all the chaos that goes on in public education here.
Despite all of the chaos that goes on in public education, because when you expose young people to opportunities, they actually can see a path forward. So it's up to us. It's incumbent upon us as individuals and institutions, private sector and the public sector, to create that path for young people.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping to do and hoping to accomplish.
Yeah. Speaking of schools, of course, you want school to lead to other things. And so much of the problem is if you go and you get through school and you get through college and maybe want to do something or start a business in a place like Detroit, it's still difficult to get the resources, to get the access to the kind of backing that you need, or just to have an understanding of how that works.
Yeah, and that's why we're layering in a lot of financial literacy support. That's also why we're layering in the summer jobs component, just exposing young people to the private sector and introducing the private sector to the next generation of young Detroiters who will actually move this work forward. All they need is an opportunity. So what the Campaign for Black Male Achievement and what the Skillman Foundation is working to support is to provide the resources to the individuals who are standing in the gap for these boys.
Right. I know that Skillman has long been working in this area, but you sort of tie it in with the other work that you guys are doing. I mean, the Skillman focus on neighborhoods, for instance, in Detroit, I know has had a big effect. Talk about how those things play off each other.
Yeah, those things definitely play off each other, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because as we have a strong neighborhood focus on community leadership, education, safety, and youth development, across our 6 neighborhoods, we're seeing our violent crime numbers decrease dramatically because we have measures and opportunities, measures in place and opportunities for our young people through the Safe Routes to Schools program, through partnerships with the police department. And we are hoping to build the capacity so these community residents can lead themselves and get out of their own way.
Well, and I'm glad you used that phrase, building capacity. It's one of the things that we don't do well around here in general in Detroit, build capacity to be able to manage things ourselves. And when I say Detroit there, I'm talking about the whole region, Southeast Michigan, growing talent and keeping it here in a way that helps grow talent in the future. And when you're talking about black males, that's what you have to be really focused on.
Yeah, you definitely have to be focused on it because they serve as a catalyst to so many things, and equipping them with the tools to actually lead their own way and create their own path. The unintended consequences of that is positive.
Yeah.
Unintended consequences are positive.
Yeah. Talk about what the next year or two of this program should look like and what we should start to see happening in Detroit and other cities that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, so what you'll likely see is individuals who we like to term as unusual suspects coming to the table, driving this work, standing in the gap, standing hand in hand with the foundation and other partners. You'll also see a lot of this work woven into the fabric of who we are, into the spirit of Detroit, to where it is the norm. The new normal should be created to where this population is supported. The most marginalized group in any community are boys of color.
Yeah.
So shame on us if we don't step up to the plate and move forward. You'll also see a number of national initiatives, even more coming here to the city of Detroit. And hopefully Detroit continues to be a hotbed of a learning community where individuals from across the country are actually coming here to learn what it takes to move outcomes for boys of color.
Yeah. What kind of support are you getting from outside the black male community? Corporate support here in Detroit. You mentioned the mayor. He's really involved. Talk about how you've been able to bridge that gap to sort of focus people's attention on.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we've received a lot of support primarily through the Grow Detroit's Young Talent, the Summer Youth Employment Initiative. I mean, we had hundreds of employers from Fortune 500
who
companies.
Came and
to the small mom and pop shops who actually came and stepped up to the plate.
And talk about, that was a really interesting program. I mean, the deal was you only needed $1,000, right? Any corporation.
Any corporation, any business, and the mayor was very gracious in creating a pool of dollars to match businesses and corporations. So if they put in $1,000, the city of Detroit also put in $1,000 to create a summer work experience for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And 5,600 young people in the city of Detroit
Got that experience.
got that experience.
Yeah.
Got
yeah.
that experience.
And you know, you think about that number, $1,000. I mean, it's so little money to a business or to a lot of people. But something like that makes a big difference. You pay that $1,000,
Yeah.
and now you've given a young person a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, and you've given them more than a paycheck.
Yeah.
I mean, the ROI on that will live for generations.
Yeah.
Young people, we had young people making the decision between illegal activity and a work
and
experience.
a job, right?
And a work experience. So, I mean, kudos to the hundreds of businesses that actually stepped up to the plate, and we're actually moving forward. Summer 2016, we're hoping to get 8,000.
Yeah, yeah. What else do you need support-wise for this? What else do you need from government? What else do you need from the private sector to sort of make this even bigger than what it is?
Yeah, the obvious answer would be financial resources.
Yeah, money, right.
However, we need advocates that are willing to be a voice for the voiceless. That's essentially what we need. We need advocates cross-sector from all walks of life to be willing to stand up and say this population is important, and we're going to do whatever it is that we can to support them in whatever way that looks. So for some, it may be financial resources. For others, it could just be creating an opportunity. Yeah, that's what we need.
You know, I thought when the president came out and talked about this issue, that you would see more of a rallying to that cause. I sort of have to say I'm not sure I've seen that yet.
Yeah, I mean it's new, right? So for the first time in America, not only do we have the Campaign for Black Male Achievement focused on building the builder, for the very first time, we also have created the space for the country to be unapologetic in talking about this population, where communities such as Detroit, Oakland, D.C., they've been doing this work for a while. But President Obama opened up the door for everybody.
For everyone to be doing it.
And it's something new, so we're going to keep pushing at it, and hopefully the support will continue to rise as it has been.
Okay. David McGee of the Skillman Foundation, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we'll continue our conversation on improving the lives of young black males. We'll learn about a program that promotes education instead of incarceration. But first, here's a look at some important moments in Detroit's black history.
I'm Ken Coleman with a look back at African American life in Detroit. This week in 1936, Hartford Memorial Baptist Church pastor Charles Adams was born. In 1966, WJLB's Frantic Ernie Durham identified the city's top song as I'm Losing You by the Temptations. And in 1947, Sugar Ray Robinson defeated Chuck Taylor at Olympia Stadium to keep his welterweight championship belt. These are significant events this week in Detroit's Black history, taken from the book On This Day, African American Life in Detroit.
The Real Life 101 Scholarship Fund has one major goal: to help young black men get an education and avoid going to prison. The national program was founded here in Detroit. It provides African American males with college scholarships of $1,000 every year, a laptop computer, and personal mentors. Real Life 101 helps to remove some of the barriers that prevent these men from going to college. Joining me now is the program's founder, Sid Taylor, along with Executive Director Bryant George. Thanks, both of you, for being here.
Thank you.
So this is a program that, as I said, started here in Detroit, but it's in a lot of places now in the country.
Yes, we are now in 45 of 50 states. And we are a national organization. We realize that, as you've already talked about, the gravity of the African-American gap, we had to make sure we scale our efforts up to help meet the challenge. And we're proud of the accomplishments to date. I'm proud of my new executive director, Mr. Bryant George.
Face, right?
I met Bryant in 2006. It's been almost 10 years now, and he's now my executive director.
Talk about how this works. I mean, $1,000 in the previous segment, we were talking about how $1,000 from a corporation could give a young person in Detroit an internship opportunity for a summer. You're sort of doing the same thing here. It's the idea of a small gesture making a big difference, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just $1,000. It's $1,000 for 5 years.
For 5 years, right?
Yeah. So they get so that's and then you're talking about 10 per school. So it's really, when you throw in the laptop computers and the computer carrying bags, it's a $60,000 investment per school.
Per school.
For Real Life 101. And I personally fund a lot of this, and a lot of my corporate sponsors, and this is how we sponsor this. So
Yeah.
so it's a very, very big thing for these young folks to get this jump start.
Sure.
And then we help them with things like the Pell Grants. That's where the mentors come in.
Right.
The mentors help them find other monies to help them with
Find their way through that sort of maze of financial support for,
Yes,
for college.
absolutely.
It's confusing.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Bryant, you were a student the first time I met you at Madonna College, and you were starting a program like this. Now you are running this program. That's a pretty big transition.
Thanks.
Yeah. So talk about what your leadership of this program's been like.
Well, it's been amazing. You know, I asked myself, do I want to be the Brian George who just, go to Detroit and, attract 15 to 25 students to come to Madonna University to get a degree every year? Or do I want to be a Brian George who can go, and help the Real Life 101 Scholarship Fund in 45 states out of 50 states at this point,
Yeah.
and help those young men get into college? And so, because I was one of those recipients and I understood
Right.
that
This
the problem,
we should make clear. This was how you
Absolutely.
got to.
This is how I got to college.
Yeah.
This was the initial, motion of me going to college. And this was the primary reason of why I went to college. And so I remember having my mentor. He was located in Chicago, a guy named Bill Williams. But, every single month he and I would talk. And, I just wanted to make him proud, and he gave me a lot of advice. And so I know that it was important for me and the young man all over the country. It's very important, right?
Yeah, yeah. Talk about some of the young men who benefit from this. What do you see from them, and what becomes of them?
Well, there are many success stories.
Yeah.
Brian is one of them. We have one of our students is now a state police officer, state trooper for the Michigan, state troopers, and one of our students just got hired by the FBI. We've had one that's an Olympic athlete. And I could go on and on.
Right.
Actually,
So you guys have books here.
yeah, we have a yearbook
tell me
here.
something about.
Yeah, and our yearbook, this shows a graphic picture of all the states that we're in, all the green. We've got 5 states that we are not in yet, but in addition to that, we have here all the schools that we're in every state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so in 2016, what we will be doing is we will be giving scholarships in 45 or 50 states, and that's going to be over 700 black males that's going to get scholarship opportunities to help them to meet the challenges that's out there for them.
Yeah.
And we're proud of that. Again, when we talk about scaling up, when I started this program in 2000, I gave 10 scholarships.
Okay.
And now we have like 172 black males in colleges and universities all around the country. And this time next year, we're going to have nearly 1,000 black males in colleges and universities around the country.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
And so how do you identify the people in schools, high schools, who might be recipients of this?
Excellent. So we have the principals, counselors, and also the teachers. They recommend 10 students from their high schools. Those 10 students apply. They submit a 1,000-word essay. That essay question is, what would you personally do to change or help improve the image of African American males in this country? And so those students submit their application, the essay. They also take a photograph of themselves, because with the yearbook, again, we want to capture these moments.
Right.
And instead of having mug shots, we're creating successful pictures of these guys.
Yeah.
And so once they provide those incentives, we put that together and they are awarded. So many scholarships, those are competitive based.
Right.
But we see the deficit that a lot of African American male students face while they're going through their upbringing and also in high school. And so this is almost like a non-competitive base. So the first 10, those are who are going to college.
That's who gets it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned that, yearbook shots instead of mug shots. That's a very serious point, though, that for a lot of kids, especially here in Detroit and other places, that's really the choice they're facing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every single day, Stephen.
Yeah. Talk about that choice for you. Talk about how you got to Madonna University instead of trouble in the streets.
Well, I grew up in a 48204.
Yeah. Oh,
zip
yeah.
code, and so that was ranked as one of the deadliest.
It's one of the most dangerous and deprived zip codes in the country.
So
Yeah.
failure was spelled everywhere within my neighborhood. You saw a lot of drugs, you saw a lot of gangs. But again, I was in high school, Mr. Taylor, Glenn Stafford, they came to my high school. And they just—
Which high school did you go to?
Northwestern High School.
Okay.
Sorry. And they presented us with the statement, 1 out of 3 of you all have a chance of going to prison in your lifetime. And there was 10 of us in a room, and I immediately saw guys just drop their heads. And I held my head up high, and I began to feel my confidence build at that point. And so Medina University was the only school that I actually got accepted into throughout the whole state of Michigan.
Wow.
And so I took that one opportunity, I took my mentor, I took my scholarship, and I had my laptop. Those incentives completely saved and changed my life.
Yeah, yeah. And that's got to be a very common story that you hear from young men in the program.
Yes, and that's what keeps me going. And we're now in our 17th year of what I call investing in education and not incarceration.
Right.
Just what Brian just talked about, that's a dynamic that nobody can overlook. 1 in 3 chance of going to prison.
Yeah.
And so I said to myself, we as adults, we should be ashamed of ourselves if we're leaving a populace at that kind of a deficit.
Yeah.
And so as an ex-Marine and Vietnam combat veteran myself, I fall back on something that happened to me in Vietnam, and this was my commitment to do something about something.
What was it about your Vietnam experience that led you here?
Well, it was a day that I was my Marine Corps platoon. We were in a firefight, and I didn't think we was going to make it out. And I just prayed to God that, God, if you get us out of this, one day I'll do something for society. I did not know it was going to be Real Life 101,
Right.
but now I know this is it.
Yeah.
And so the rest of my life will be, I will concentrate on creating a legacy, and also making sure that it sustains itself by bringing in folks like Brian and the younger generation, because I say this all the time. It's the same thing I do with my business. You have to have a continuum,
Yes.
and you have to have a succession plan, and you have to pass this baton to the younger generation, because I say all the time, look, my runway is short. They have a long runway.
They have a little longer.
That's
one,
right. And we have to pass our fortunes, our knowledge, and our vision on to the next generation, because they're the ones that's got to take it to the next level.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Talk about how other people who are in your position might start their own idea, get their own idea going. I mean, this started, as you point out, as something pretty small and has grown over time. I mean, there's got to be a lot of other people who could take advantage of that kind of opportunity.
Well, yeah, and if you're talking about from the perspective of starting an organization, well, that's certainly one perspective, but it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
and it really is, and it takes a lot of creativity, and I don't mean that in a pompous way, but I'm just saying people
It's
don't
not
really
for
know.
everybody.
It's just not for everybody. And sometimes, Stephen, it's best to look at something that already has a foundation and get behind it.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out and create another wheel, so
Right,
to speak.
right.
Look at something that has momentum, it has good organization, it has a history, and put your efforts and your finances behind it.
Right.
And so we would encourage those that's out there that's watching this show to look at Real Life 101, www.reallife101.org. You can watch the video. You can find out about what we do. We in 2016, we're gonna bring in 1,000 mentors. We already have about 260 mentors around the country.
Yeah.
Remember, we're a national organization, and we're going to bring in 1,000 mentors.
Wow.
So we'd like for you and our mentors.
And that's a great way to contribute.
It absolutely is.
If you don't have money or can't do it that way, you can contribute by being part of the program.
That's right. And the other unique thing about Real Life 101, Stephen, I've created an organization that I call is about the rainbow of America. The mentors are black,
Yeah.
they're white, they're women, they're men, they're Hispanic, so we have a very diverse organization.
Yeah.
So we want you, if you want to get involved, go to our website, www.reallife101.org, go to the mentor link, and you can sign up
And
to
you
be
can-
a
you
real
can
life
be part of
one-on-one
it.
mentor.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you guys both for being here. I love the green jackets.
Well, thank you.
You look like Masters winners.
Well, thank you.
Good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
next
Thank you.
year.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org. And as always, you can connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. Plus, you can hear our program on WDET 1019 FM. We'll see you next time.
This program is part of American Graduate. Let's make it happen. A public media initiative made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. Dte Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.